As you know, my name is Sarah Jemison. I am the Military Family Prevention Specialist for 7 counties and serve the state of Kentucky. And my co-presenter today
is Steve Cameron. I'm with the Prevention and Promotion Branch in the Division of Behavioral Health. And we're here to talk about the Purple Star Award program. And Steve and Ashley are part actually of our Purple Star Advisory Board. That's how we got the invite. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to come here and share with you the progress that we've thus made, and really to give you kind of a background on how this program can help with the kinds of things that our previous presenter just talked about. So go ahead, Sarah.
And so before we discuss all of the aspects of what the Purple Star program does, we want to take a look at understanding our military community here in Kentucky and who they are. So what is a military family? A military family is the immediate and extended family of an active duty, National Guard or Reserve family members, as well as veterans and members who've died in service. That can be including spouses, children, stepchildren, foster children, adopted children. It could include extended families such as parents, siblings, both adult and youth siblings, unmarried parents, and adult children. Specifically, military connected youth can be anyone whose parents are currently on active duty, they were on active duty before they were born, or served in the military before they were born, a sibling or a loved one. And so it is really any connection that they could have in close proximity to the military. And so when looking at military families, they have some unique aspects and characteristics that makes them different from what they call as civilian families or non-military related families. And so when thinking about active duty, and those are active duty or service members who are in the military Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, those are going to be the service members that are located mostly in Kentucky around Fort Knox and Fort Campbell. And those military families experience frequent moves. They're less prone to risky behaviors and substance use. They tend to be more financially stable. They have a lot of resources and support systems because of the bases. They have access to healthcare coverage, and they have military family cohesiveness because of the supports that they receive. The National Guard and Reserve families are more geographically stable. Military connected parents are responsible for 2 jobs. They have their 1 weekend a month and trainings that they're required to do, but they also, as this service member pictured here, has 2 jobs. They oftentimes lack access to services on the military installations. They may live far from their military units and they have to travel. You know, they could live in Eastern Kentucky, but their unit where they report to monthly could be located in Louisville. There's oftentimes a lack of knowledge of the role that the military plays and how their military community, how the community views them as being in the military. There's a shift in financial status if a parent is called up for active duty service. They oftentimes don't have the same access to healthcare coverage, and the youth are often not recognized. With our veteran families, they're geographically stable. They can be financially stable. Healthcare coverage is going to depend on how much time they served and how they left the military. They're often invisible. They lack peer connections. They could have service-related injuries, both physical and emotional, which could impact the family as well. There is a loss of the military connection and they are oftentimes more likely to pursue education past high school. So just because organizations or you don't live right next to Fort Knox or Fort Campbell, it doesn't mean that all of these military families and veterans living in your communities, in your schools, in your churches, and in your grocery stores. When we think of aspects of military youth, this is information that was received from the National Military Family Association on 10 things military kids want you to know. They're proud of their parents. They understand the value of service and what that means. They think about war. They think about war as it relates to their family and wanting and getting news about someone being hurt. They move a lot. And so that means that they can adapt to new situations. They take on a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of things that, you know, if a parent is deployed, the older sibling is oftentimes mowing the lawn or taking care of younger siblings. And they live in the community. They're not always recognized as a military family. They appreciate being thanked and recognized, and they appreciate their family members getting thanked. They value diversity and new experiences, and oftentimes can make friends with anyone. They miss their family members when they're deployed, or even if they're home and suffering wounds from their service. And in a lot of ways, they're just like other kids and other youth, and they just want to be a normal child. And then lastly, they serve too. The impact of their parents' service is directly impacts their life. Last year, we had and I hope I may have to reshare my screen if we don't hear this sound, but we had a video contest, and this was a video that was shared by one of our Kentucky youth. I think I'm going to stop sharing and reshare real quick because I don't think I remembered to share my sound. There we go.
Being a military kid seems like it means that I just move around a lot. But to me, it means more than just that. It is something more powerful than just that. And I imagine that everyone can feel that powerful feeling if they try hard enough. I'm a military kid, but I'm still a kid. I imagine that all kids, military or not, can be a kind, smart, amazing human being. That is what I imagine as a military kid. Being a military...
And so that just kind of resonates very much with what the National Youth Report, as they just want to be recognized as a child. Sometimes, you know, because they're taking on more responsibility, they want to play more like a normal child. And so this is from one of the youth here in our state. And military culture values strength and supports resiliency, but there are families that are at greater risk, such as National Guard families, because they don't have the same resources and support. Communities that single parent families or families that have dual parents serving in the military, those that experience frequent moves and change, and families with members who have mental health issues. And so, Steve, I'll let you talk about what it looks like, what here in.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So looking at where these veteran populations are around Kentucky, you see a map now, they don't have the county names, but the darker purple are the higher concentrations. And to no surprise, the darker areas are around the military base. You see there's Hardin County around that and Fort Knox area, and Christian County down on the Tennessee border, a high concentration there. But you also have obviously up in Jefferson County and some of the counties in central Kentucky and way out there in western Kentucky, you have some high concentrations too. So this was just our look at, you know, taking an epidemiological look at, you know, the highest area of concentrations of veterans in the state. And then when we go to the next slide, you're going to see this is our military connected youth as measured by, you see it down in the notes there, it's our 2018 KIP is the abbreviation for the Kentucky Incentives for Prevention survey, and that's done in grades 6, 8, 10th, and 12. And that's done in about, at least 2018 was done in about 160 out of the 172 school districts in the state. So it's a very robust data set that we have. And there, again, you see Communicare is the region where Fort Knox is. They are the second highest, and then you've got Pennyroyal, which is the area where Fort Campbell is, and you've got, you know, they are the highest. Now, interestingly, when you look at these two regions, and you look at Pennyroyal and Communicare, and you cross-tabulate those military connected youth, and you look at their substance use, especially because the grant we were focusing on was opioid use or prescription drugs taken for non-medical purposes. Those two regions had the highest prescription drug abuse rates of any regions in the state. So again, that was not necessarily all of that was military connected, but it was just interesting that those two regions that had the highest rate of military connected youth also had the highest rates. And we're going to take a look at military youth specific data here in the next few slides. And if we go to the next slide, this is, again, from the same KIP data that I spoke about. Military youth report higher rates of peer victimization, as Sarah told us. You know, military youth, at least those whose parents are in the armed forces full time, they move around quite a bit. And the Department of Defense estimates that the average school-age military connected youth could experience anywhere from 6 to 9 different schools in the course of their education. So while they are adaptable and they are diverse, they're exposed to a lot of different environments. And that means, you know, that they are the new kids in their environment. And sometimes new kids, as we know, get picked on for various reasons or have some kind of stigma attached to them because they're not from here. And so those are the kinds of stressors that are on those kids as they move around in schools. And just to be clear about when we talk about how do we define peer victimization, these are things like obviously being bullied on the school grounds, or being cyber bullied, being verbally threatened at school, or physically attacked at school, or any kind of unwanted sexual advances, things like that. So that's how we define it. Now, what you're looking at here, the gray bar down at the bottom, both of those, we got the 2016 and 2018. Those are the kids who said that they didn't have any military connections that they knew about, or they didn't know. And the purple bar on top is those who reported having one or more military connection. And as Sarah described earlier, that could be a parent, it could be a loved one, someone that person identifies and cares for in their family. And so what you're seeing clearly here is the youth that report a military connection have report much higher rates of bullying. So that when you compare that, that's about 1.5 percentage point above those kids who don't report a military connection. And that has remained stable there from 2016 to 2018. Unfortunately, we usually do this survey every 2 years. We don't have a data set for 2020 because we had to postpone the survey because of COVID. But I would assume that rate is pretty stable. And if we going to the next slide, when we look at other behavioral health problems, things like serious psychological stress, self-harm, suicide ideation, suicide plans, and suicide attempt. We have 3 bars here. So the one on the bottom, again, the gray one, is those kids who reported not knowing that they have a military connection or clearly stated that they don't. The light purple or lavender bar, those are the kids who said, yes, I have 1 military connection. And then the purple one is they had 2 or more connections. And, you know, it's a trend all the way up the scale. Is what it tells us is that the more military connections you have, apparently the higher risk you are for all of these things, you know, suicide ideation, suicide plans, suicide attempts, all of those. So, you know, and this was the survey, there was over 100,000, I think there was about 120,000 in that cohort. So again, you know, this is, we talk about, we're a little more aware publicly of what the service members experience and the stressors that they encounter in their military life, especially when they're deployed and they're in combat zones. What we're hearing less about is the impact, you know, the secondary trauma on those kids. And so when we look now at drug past 30-day drug use, and the next slide, you're going to see a very similar kind of trend. Okay, there we're looking at tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, prescription drugs, and you see the same pattern. Again, those kids on the top, the purple bar, the darker purple, are the kids that have 2 or more military connections, and they're higher in all of those substances. And our epidemiologist told us that basically, I mean, we do other, we asked questions about other drugs on the survey, and said that, you know, it would probably be very similar all across the board. So that trend is indicative of a larger systemic problem that's going on in that population. So and when you look at when you combine all these together and you look at all drugs combined, military connected youth were about 1.5% higher than kids that didn't have a military connection. And just looking at opioids, they were about 1%. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah, and she's going to tell us about when we looked at this data. Clearly, it was an eye opener, especially because when we first looked at it, it was 2014. So we knew we had to do something about it. And Sarah's going to tell us about some of her work with the Teen Council, and that's kind of what led us on this path to the Purple Star.
So the Kentucky Teen Council is a program that the National Guard provides youth who are between the ages of 12 and 18 and still in school. And they do a lot of volunteer work at different events and provide them training and opportunity. And so in 2019, I met with this Teen Council in Louisville, and I showed them the data that we just reviewed. And I asked them what they thought was the reason and the cause for some of this data, and what they thought could help strengthen military connected youth. And although they did not really think that military connected youth used substances or misused substances and didn't feel like that was really an issue, they did discuss mental health concerns being very prevalent within military connected youth. A lot of it because of parents being deployed. You know, you're worried the moment you hear, especially things that are going on globally now with Afghanistan, these military connected youth, they're hearing it, they're watching the news, they're seeing these things, hearing people talk about them, and makes them very worried and nervous and anxious about what's going to happen to their family, or they see their parent who is at home, is watching all of these news and feeling the impact of the other adult in their lives, anxiousness about this military situation and being deployed. They talked about there is not a lot of support in schools. Schools don't understand what it's like to be a military child. They don't even know that there are other military youth attending schools. Two of the teen council members attended the same high school in a small county in Spencer County, but they didn't even know that they were both military connected youth until they attended a summer camp one year. And having that connection and knowing that there are youth like you in your school was very helpful for them. One teen council member talked about how one of their teachers was a veteran and they could relate to them because of that military connection. They said how important it was for them to feel that connection with other students, because one of the teen council members reported being bullied for sharing stories about her older brother who was deployed in Africa, and students thought that she was making it up and attention seeking, and so they bullied her and picked on her. But if other military connected students were able to share and relate to her, she would have had the support that she needed. And so after having these talks with the teen council members and learning about all the data, Steve and I heard about a program that was being implemented in Ohio, and that is the Purple Star program. And the Purple Star program is a school designated award that schools receive to when they have support and dedication of a military family and students. And so, Steve, if you want to talk a little further about that.
Yeah, just a little more detail that this program was developed in Ohio in 2016. And it was developed as a result of a lot of conversations that folks were having that we had in Kentucky. And I don't know if they had the kind of data that we did or not, but they could see what was happening on the ground. And so they convoked a number of veterans, educators, a lot of military family members, students, and other stakeholders, and they just sat down and discussed, well, what do we need to do to better serve military students and their families? And the Purple Star program was what evolved from those discussions. And basically, the Purple Star designation, because it's an award, okay? And schools that have the Purple Star Award have a banner hanging in their school. So when you walk into that school, if you're a military connected youth or military family, you're going to see right away that you're going to get the message that this school lets these military families know that the school is dedicated to helping their child, with academically and helping them to acquire the necessary skills to be successful, whether that's college or the workforce. So we in our program are working very closely with the program developer in Ohio, and he has kind of mentored us through this process and has, it's done different ways in different states. Sometimes it's the Department of Education. Sometimes there is the state legislature makes it into law. We are doing this program started as a result of federal funding that came through the Division of Behavioral Health. So we're operating it out of my division, but our goal is to make it statewide. And of course, the Department of Education is involved. We'll talk about more about that when we get into the advisory council membership. But just to give you an idea, if we can switch to the next the map, this is what's going on nationally, there are 32 states. We have to update this almost every couple of weeks. When we started this program, started just laying the groundwork back in, wow, like last year, there were only 13 states. So this is how fast this thing is moving. And so you see all the states around Kentucky are on board with this. So it is a very fast moving program. And we are happy that Kentucky has joined, with these other states. And we're working collaboratively with a lot of them to build our program, to share our successes and challenges with them, and to learn, from their implementation issues. Looking at basically, if we go to the next slide, this is our vision, our mission. It's just laid out there, and we're just trying to keep it, simple. We envision every military connected youth in Kentucky receives what they need to succeed. That's it. That's what we want them to do. We want them to feel comfortable in their school environment. Obviously, Sarah talked about one of the things that resonated in that youth council was the feeling that a lot of these behavioral health problems were because these military youth didn't have a sense of connection. They didn't even know if there were other military youth in their school. So our mission is to instill a sense of connection and strengthen the resilience, obviously, within those military youth. And I'm not going to read all the goals there, but you have them laid out. And we'd be happy to send. We have a one-pager. We have lots of material. So anyone that wants additional information on this, please feel free to contact us. Our email will be, I think, on the last slide. So let's go to the next slide. So we had our first success, and we were really elated that Monroe County in September, late September, they expressed that they heard about the program, word of mouth. We weren't going to launch the program. We didn't officially launch it until this month, October 4th. But Monroe County heard about it. They were really on board. They had already had kind of a culture where they were supporting military youth in both the middle school and the high school. And so they said, hey, we really want this and we want it now. Do we have to wait until, October? And we said, no, we want you to, to do it. And so this was their award ceremony. We had originally planned to have with the lieutenant governor in attendance and actually have it in Frankfurt, but COVID changed all this. So this was a local outdoor ceremony. It was done in front of the high school. And there you see the banner. So that banner will hang in the school, and that will let, again, these folks know that, this school is doing all it can to support military connected youth. Sarah, you want to talk about some of the details about how schools, how to become a Purple Star school?
Yes. So there are 3 requirements that schools must complete in order to receive the Kentucky Purple Star Award. They're very simple for schools to do. The first requirement is to identify a family liaison. We call it the Purple Star liaison, and schools can choose whoever they want to be the liaison. It can be the Frisky, it can be a counselor, it can be a veteran teacher. If it's a high school and they have a JROTC program, it can be that instructor. That liaison is then required to complete a training that we partnered with UK to develop, a training that is military culture training as it relates to the impact on the youth. And so it's a 1-hour training that is self-paced that they can do online. And they also receive 1 ELA training credit after completing the training. As the liaison, they're going to just act as the family support or supporting the youth, helping identify those military connected youth in the schools, making sure they have the resources and tools that they need to be successful in school. They are also going to work with other teachers in the school and maybe educate them on what it's like to be a military family, or if they have military students in their class that are having some concerns or issues or behavioral problems, they can work with the liaison to try to get the student the resources they need. They're also required to complete one additional military support activity, and that is also up to the school as to how they want to recognize the military students and families in their schools. For example, Monroe County, during the month of the military child, which is April, they promoted to wear purple, which is the color of the military child. And so students who wore purple during the month of the military child received an incentive. And so that's the way that they celebrated and recognized their military students. Other schools may have a free admission to the football games during November for Veterans Day. They might invite veteran families in for a breakfast, or they could do an assembly during Veterans Month, which is coming up here in November. And so it's really up to the school to identify how they want to recognize and show honor to those military students and families. And it oftentimes can be a large community event. And so it's not just the school that's directly impacted, but the community as well. And then the last requirement for schools is to have website, a designated place on their school website where they would list resources that are specific to their region or their local county. We offer national and state resources, but we really want to be able to have those local resources listed for them as well. And let's see here. So when schools are interested in applying for the Purple Star Award, they can visit our website. They would complete the application online, or they can download it and email it to us. Our advisory board reviews the applications twice a year and notifies the school, and then the school receives the Purple Star designation. And they are required to reapply. This says 3 years, but we've since changed it to every 2 years to make sure that the liaison is still the same person, or maybe they need to have additional trainings and resources. And so we like to make sure that they are applying every 2 years. So who is our advisory board? Our advisory board is made up of key community stakeholders, representatives from all of these agencies listed here, as well as several others. The purpose of the board is to review the applications. They assist with outreach and marketing, to develop a statewide network of Purple Star schools. Our meetings are held quarterly, and they last about 2 hours in duration. We don't have any set term limits for our board members. And one of our leader, our chairman, is also retired General Bullard out of the Lieutenant Governor's Office, the Governor's Office of Military Affairs. And he's also our MIC3 representative, which is the Military Institute of Children's Compact Commission, which is a federal mandate that requires states to communicate when students are moving and transferring states. And so the MIC-3 Council was really developed to help those active duty students. And so the benefit of the Purple Star Award is it impacts all military connected students, including the National Guard and Reserve families. Steve, was there anything that you wanted to speak
No,
on?
I think you covered it very well, other than just to say that this advisory board is not clearly not static as we identify new needs. We are constantly partnering with folks as we are partnering with Kiprick and with the CDC grant that they applied for. And so now Ashley and Steve are part of our advisory board. So yeah, it's a very organic board.
So how does the Purple Star Award program help the military connected youth? It helps increase the protective factors in reducing the risk factors for substance misuse and behavioral health issues. It provides a caring school environment that increases youth engagement. It encourages positive peer influence, personal responsibility, involvement from parents and other adults in the community. It helps to foster diverse and inclusive and supportive school environments through their initiatives and trainings, which serve all students regardless of military connection. It has no, just furthers already what the schools are required to do through the MIC-3. Communities with Purple Star schools can help retain bases and attract military families, which could help benefit that community. And so it is overall a positive, schools are receiving positive recognition, the families and the students receive all the recognition as well. And so Steve, if you want to talk about some other data that we've seen.
Sure. Let's go to the next slide. So this, what you're seeing here, the next two slides are from an evaluation report that was authored by the Center for Public Leadership. And they looked at, it was back when they had there were 9 states that had the Purple Star program in there the longest. And they did extensive focus groups and looked at data. And basically what these little graphs are telling you is 77% of schools reported that the program has had a positive or a very positive impact on their students. 77% said that it specifically helped improve their relationship with military connected families. And no school reported any negative impacts. And about 57% of schools said that that there was a noticeable improvement in their military connected youth social emotional development in their academic experience. And again, no detrimental impacts. And the interesting thing is when they compared these military connected youth that were in Purple Star schools with the military connected youth who were not, 77% of the parents in Purple Star schools were satisfied with their child's social emotional experience in the Purple Star school, compared to just 54% of their military connected peers who were in non-designated Purple Star schools. So we go on to the next slide. That just very quickly is telling you how basically easy this is. When they looked at the school administrators, 86%, the schools said, hey, this is either very easy or really easy. 96% of those schools said it was either easy or very easy. And I think you, from what Sarah, as she listed out the the requirements there, you can see it's pretty easy. It doesn't cost the schools any money to do this. We supply the banners, the plaques, and some of the promotional material. If they want to do additional military activities that might cost money, that would be up to them to get that from their community partners, but it's not a requirement. There's no big capital outlays to roll this program out. So it is easy to implement, and it's down on the second donut. It's really easy to really to maintain the program. Only 4% said it was hard, very hard. So most of those folks, it was pretty easy, or it was neither difficult nor easy. It was just something they did. So, and again, this is the first study. It's a national study. We are working with our evaluators. Once we get our state program up and running, we obviously want to look at some of these similar indicators to see what impact they're having on our military families here in Kentucky. So let's go to the next slide. And Sarah, you want to take us home?
Yes. So this is our call to action. We appreciate you all listening and engaging in the conversations in the chat. And many of you seem like from some of the chat have military connections yourselves. Being a military, there was a child of an adult military veteran in the chat. And so this is our call to action to continue to educate yourself on the military culture and the impact that military life plays on youth, as well as the service members. And there's lots of trainings that are out there that can help further your work. Take steps within your agencies to support military connected youth, identifying them. Oftentimes we don't even ask if youth are connected to the military. And so by asking these questions, we can help support them in better ways and help us to sustain the statewide program. We talked about wanting to build a network. We've got 2 schools that are currently awarded. And since our launch on October 4th, we've had several district superintendents reach out to us and want to find out about implementing this program in their schools. And we really want to build a network of Purple Star schools and help create this buzz and flow. And Steve mentioned having a 1-pager that we can share, but if there are other ways that you would like to help us to sustain the program, we are welcome your support and our military families here in Kentucky.
To that, I would add, as we partnered with Kiprick in the future, for when you're applying for federal grants, especially with the behavioral health or a substance abuse component, there might be a place for the Purple Star program in your grant application as we work with Steve and Ashley. So that's something to consider as well, if appropriate. And we would be happy to work with you to supply all the material that you would need on that. We are, as I said, expanding, looking for new partners. And so if you have additional questions, let's go to the next slide. And that's how you can contact, that is our website there. It'll come up here in just a minute. You can contact us through that, or you can contact Sarah at her 7 counties email address. So with that said, are there any questions? I haven't seen anything in the chat, but I haven't been looking at the chat. Any questions?
Thank you, Steve and Sarah. There was one question from perusing the chat. It was from Jenny Jones. She says, I'm wondering if you consider all those that served in the military as veterans with the same available resources, I have a father-in-law that did not serve during wartime, but served on a warship, and he was often declined from many services and told he wasn't considered a veteran.
Yeah, unfortunately, the federal government and makes it very difficult for people to even identify themselves as a veteran and military family, because because National Guard, if they're not activated, they were never federally activated, or activated by the state, they're not considered a veteran. And so because of different federal and state mandates, it makes it very hard for individuals to even self-identify. But the great part about this program is it's all inclusive, to any military connected child or military connected family person. We don't ask about discharge status, or if they were in for 4 years or 20 years, or if they were in the National Guard for 6 years but never activated, or if they were deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan or Vietnam. This program includes anyone who self-identifies as a military or veteran, family member or child.
Thank you. The rest were comments regarding the presentation, and I would encourage everyone to visit www.kentuckykypurplestar.org for more information, and reach out to Sarah and Steve.